government is doing right now as far as cutting out those jobs. A huge percentage of those people, and I know you care about the veterans, are veterans.
Yes.
And that is a damn shame.
Yes. Yeah.
That is a damn shame.
I'm not a Democrat, but I'm worried about the veterans, man.
All right. Well, I yielded to one of my elders, and I appreciate his comments. I think it's a great. I'm not gonna. We don't have time for everyone to stand up. I do got 2 more commitments today. Appreciate everybody making the drive out, and God bless America. Thank you.
Oh, wait. You're an hour. You're not
We're gonna take pictures with you, buddy, right?
vote you out.
Senator Roger Marshall is a coward. He left his town hall early after getting too many, as he called them, rude questions from constituents like that man, who was concerned about veterans being thrown out by Elon Musk. You know, the extreme disdain that this party has for this country is something that they no longer care about hiding.
Republican Senator Roger Marshall left his town hall at a county hospital in Kansas early. Colin McRoberts, who captured this moment, travelled about 5 hours with his mother to attend.
We had heard about the town hall on Reddit from someone who said they'd called into his office and found out about it, but I could not find any information about it online. We kind of got the impression that the senator did not want people to come to the town hall, which made me think it might be a particularly interesting thing to go to.
McRoberts said when he arrived, they had to move to a larger space.
I would say there was room for maybe 30 people max. They had some folding chairs set out for about that many. And within, I would say 20 minutes before the scheduled start time, it was overflowing. And one of Marshall's staffers came in and looked both surprised and I would say a little bit alarmed at the number of people and some of the signs that were critical of him. And they pretty quickly moved us to sort of an atrium space.
You know, this is one of the rudest audiences I've ever had.
So when you hear the details behind the disastrous town hall, about the fearful energy that came from Senator Marshall's handlers, just from the sight of a large number of people that he'd have to answer to, you know, it can't be any clearer that the ivory towers have been built and the ruling class has no concern for American voters.
It was a surprise to everyone, I think, to the point that no one really knew what was happening until he was out of the room and somebody started to yell, you know, why are you leaving? Where are you going? You've got 20 minutes left. And it was a very quick exit.
A spokesperson for Senator Marshall said, quote, Democrat operatives who couldn't place Oakley, Kansas on a map before today sabotaged a local town hall. Even still, Senator Marshall stayed and answered every question that was asked for 45 minutes.
You know, stop and think about that bullshit excuse. So Republicans are repeating the lie that when they face angry constituents at these town halls, that they're simply paid Democrats. You know, first of all, why is it un-American to speak to your Democratic constituents if they have questions for you? It sounds like the Republican Party is openly stating that elected officials only work for people that are registered to the party, which should beg the question, why should people that they have no interest in representing continue to pay their taxes then? You know, they've literally gone full circle back to no taxation without representation. You know, and secondly, there's zero proof behind the repeated and dismissive talking point that these town halls don't have angry Republicans attending and demanding answers for the way that they've been treated too. It's like the obvious scheme to simply repeat waste, fraud, and abuse over and over again, no matter how many times they refuse to present any actual evidence, is the way that they're going with this.
So you say there won't be any cuts to entitlements, but on Friday, Elon Musk, who President Trump has, of course, put in charge of making cuts all across the government, called Social Security, quote, the biggest Ponzi scheme of all time. Mr. Speaker, is that a sign that Social Security is Elon Musk's next target?
No, well, I've met with Elon about this multiple times. We meet late into the night in his office, and we've looked at that. What he's finding with his algorithms crawling through the data of Social Security system is enormous amounts of fraud, waste, and abuse.
So it's a target.
And we need
it is
to target that. The American people want us to. No, Kristen, don't put words in my mouth. What I am saying is we have a moral responsibility to ensure that those programs are conducted in a way that does not allow for this massive fraud and abuse. And that's what he is finding.
So it's the MAGA playbook. Ignore all facts and reality to simply restate waste, fraud, and abuse when asked anything about Elon Musk's illegal invasion of our federal government. He's the human shield who oddly uses his son in the same way to avoid accountability. He's supposed to be the untouchable genius whose abilities and findings are unmatched in comparison to anyone that easily disproves his claims. It's simple deification and propaganda, because this is their genius that's trying to convince anyone smarter than Joe Rogan why they have to raid Social Security after decades of claiming that they wouldn't.
Well, I mean, the government's one big pyramid scheme, if you ask me.
Yeah, well, you can tell me better than anybody.
Social Security is the biggest Ponzi scheme of all time.
Right, explain that.
Oh, so, well, people pay into Social Security, and the money goes out of Social Security immediately, but the obligation for Social Security is your entire retirement career. So you're paying with you're paying like if you look at the future obligations of Social Security, it far exceeds the tax revenue. Far. Have you ever looked at the debt clock?
Yes.
Okay. There's our present day debt, but then there's our future obligations. So when you look at the future obligations of Social Security, the actual national debt is like double what people think it is because of the future obligations. So basically people are living way longer than expected. And there are fewer babies being born. So you have more people who are retired and that live for a long time and get retirement payments. So the future obligations. So however bad the financial situation is right now for the federal government, it will be much worse in the future.
It's overwhelmingly obvious that this guy is one of the most unqualified and corrupt pieces of shit this country has ever seen. It's why when people like Moses Mike Johnson are confronted with facts that totally disprove their litany of lies, their response is simply, believe me and not your lying eyes.
It's worth noting the Social Security Administration's internal watchdog found that less than 1% of benefit payments were improper. I do want to get to my final question, though, which is about the shutdown.
Don't believe it. Hey, don't believe it.
All right.
Yeah.
It's amazing that don't believe it is considered a reputable answer from the Speaker of the House, who wants you to believe the guy that can't get a full sentence out about why he's doing what he's doing. You know, Trump tried to add some legitimacy to the nonsense by posting, paid troublemakers are attending Republican town hall meetings. It's all part of the game for Democrats. But just like our big landslide election, it's not going to work out for them. The coward Roger Marshall, who considered a question about supporting United States veterans rude enough to walk out on, he tried to piggyback on Trump's post to get the heat off of his ass by simply stating, can confirm. So what an extremely spineless excuse of a leader this guy is. Because even though he ran away from questions about a guy that he blindly defends, what he refuses to confirm is that his oligarchs' claims of waste, fraud, and abuse includes contracts and programs that literally don't exist. While George W. Bush was president, the U.S. Coast Guard signed a contract to get administrative help from a company in Northern Virginia. It paid $144,000, and the contract was completed by June 30th, 2005. 20 years passed, presidents came and went. Last week, Elon Musk's restructuring team called Doge said it had just canceled the long-dead Coast Guard contract, and in doing so saved U.S. taxpayers $53.7 million. And that wasn't the only time. Even after Musk's group deleted several large erroneous claims from its website last week, the New York Times found it had added new mistakes, claiming credit for canceling contracts that had actually ended under previous presidents. This is why Johnson's answer to facts is, don't believe it, just don't believe it. They won't tell you that they deleted their own announcements of several spending cuts that ended up being Musk simply creating these alternate realities for supporters to consume. The last of the original top 5 disappeared from the site in the early hours of Tuesday, even as the group claimed in its latest update that its savings to date had increased to $65 billion. The website offered no explanation for why it had removed some items or how it had arrived at the higher total. Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, sent a written statement that did not address the deletions, but provided a broader defense of the cost-cutting initiative, saying it has already identified billions of dollars in savings. Yeah, they never address the issues that come with their dismissiveness towards this country. Because they don't feel a shred of responsibility for the citizens. All they want is your money and more control over how you live. And now that some people have realized that the main symptom of Trump derangement syndrome is actually believing anything that he says, MAGA leadership only has a couple of few middle fingers to give them.
We've seen the blowback that some Republicans in your caucus that are getting when they go back home to their districts, worried about these cuts or worried about what DOJ is doing. Do you have concerns that that's anything that Democrats will be able to use to run against those Republicans?
No, because no, I don't. Because the videos you saw of the town halls were for paid protesters in many of those places. These are Democrats who went to the events early and filled up the seats. If the videos had panned outside the building,
you can't argue they were all paid protesters, though, Mr. Speaker.
Many of them were.
A Republican acknowledged they were his constituents.
One Republican acknowledged they were his constituents. That's fantastic. Okay, but they had Democrats come and fill the seats early, all right? This is an old playbook that they pulled out and ran, and it made it look like that what is happening in Washington is unpopular.